Okay, hello everyone. So today I'm going to be teaching you how to make candles. For our supplies, we're going to need a mold. It can either be a mason jar, a glass jar, an old teacup, or a tin jar. You're also going to need a wick with a holder at the end, a pencil to hold the wick in place when you're pouring in the wax, and you're going to need a thermometer. It can either be a candy thermometer, meat thermometer, doesn't really matter. A pot with boiling water, and you're going to want to use like a double boiler. I did a makeshift. I used a glass measuring cup. And then for our wax, you can either use paraben, which is the most popular because it melts the easiest and it's the cheapest. Soy wax, that's going to be eco-friendly and you can reuse it. Or you can use beeswax. But beeswax doesn't retain scent or color as well, so we're going to stick to these two instead. You're also going to need essential oils and a coloring if you'd like to color your candles. So we already have the water going with the wax boiling in it. 170 to 180 degrees. We are using soy wax. For the paraben, you want it to reach between 122 to 140 degrees Fahrenheit. And beeswax, you want it to reach 145. You can go higher, but do not exceed 175. So we're using a double boiler because if you directly heat the wax, then it can cause a fire or it'll evaporate. But in the meantime, as that's heating up, we're going to cut up our wax. So you're going to want to cut it up into small, thin pieces. It is a little hard to cut up, but that's alright. So the thinner they are, the quicker it'll melt, and it'll melt evenly if you cut it evenly, that is. So we're going to check the temperature of our wax. So you're just going to want this to reach up to 170 degrees. Also, when you're making candles, make sure that your workspace has some sort of rag, towels, newspaper, so you don't get any candle wax onto your table or your workspace. So that's just about at 170 degrees. So now we're going to add our scent. So on the back of the package, it'll tell you how much to use. This particular one, the full bottle can go for 2 pounds of wax, so we're going to use about a fourth. So just going to add that right in there while it's still in the pot. And do about 3 drops. Alright, and now we just need to mix it. So just make sure you mix it well so it gets evenly distributed. And after that is mixed, we can then add in our coloring. So I chose green coloring, and the same goes for the essential oil that goes for the coloring. On the back of the box, it'll tell you how much to use. You're going to want to use an oil-based coloring, because if you use food coloring, it's water-based, so it will not distribute as well. And then this one also calls for about a quarter of a bottle. The full thing will be good for 2 pounds of wax. But if you're not satisfied with the color you're getting, you can add a little bit more. It's not a big deal. And then just stir that. And make sure you stir it well. We're going to turn this down. So, after that is all stirred, we're going to get our molds ready. And so what you're going to want to do is you're going to want your wick to be perfectly in the center. Put the pencil right in the middle and then wrap the rest of the wick around the pencil. So if you guys want to grab one, start doing that. Okay. It doesn't have to be touching the bottom. It can be a little bit above. As you can see, mine is touching the bottom. Alright, and then just make sure that is centered. And then once you get that going, we're going to pour our wax into the molds. So you see how that's already like a light green color? That should come out nice. Alright. Now when we're going to pour it into the molds, just be very careful and do it slowly. That way you don't touch the wick and move it out of the center. So we're just going to pour that right into there. If it does start moving, you can kind of hold it in place. Oops, see that mine completely just moved. And then fill it up as high as you want to, about a quarter from the top. Alright, and now after that is all set, we're going to let it cool. So the paraffin takes about 24 hours to cool. The soy takes about 4 to 5 hours to cool. And then the beeswax takes about 6 hours to cool. I say you just let them cool overnight. That way you know they're good and ready and set to go. And then once they are cool, you're going to want to cut it about a quarter from the top of where you poured it. Because if the wick is too long, the flame will be too big, and that's a hazard, obviously. And then after you cut it, the wick, you just need to get more of the wick holders. So that's how you make candles. Now let's see us all try it.